funky.
Welcome to the Funk Basement. This is Stelvio. We got Coach, and we have a guest and our producer, the Boomer, bringing it live. We're going to be talking about the events going on currently with police brutality and the protests going on around the country. Let's get into it, fellas. What's happening?
What's up?
Man, I think we're living in exciting times, gentlemen. Exciting times. And can't wait to see what happens next. Now, I'm not approving of any violence, but I'm just saying the idea of social change, social unrest can only lead to a better United States of America as we go forward.
Now, we've all had conversations about what's going on today, and I'm really interested in what you guys' thoughts are, especially Boomer, because he has a lot of strong opinions about that. So does Coach. So what do you think? I mean, with all these protests and all this looting, and to me, a lot of this protest is unplanned, don't have any real purpose for it other than to get out there and complain about what's going on. No real resolutions that we know of about how we can stop this sort of thing. What's going on? Why are we having all this unrest all over the country, destroying their own neighborhoods, their own cities, and looting and stealing and doing whatever they want? People taking advantage of these particular times. What's going on? Is this a bad thing, good thing? You know, what is going on with all these problems with this police brutality, especially on minority men? What's going on? What you think, Boomer?
Well, you said a lot right there. So let's break it down into.
Maybe I said a little bit too much. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I can't be throwing all that on you, brother.
Into a few pieces.
All right, let's break it on down. Break it on down.
So there's a lot of things happening this week just in the news. We have the knee on the neck of a white officer onto a black officer. That within itself is not a new event. This is a part of American history.
It wasn't a black officer.
I mean, excuse me, a white officer with the knee on the neck of a black citizen. So, and this is not, like I said, the first occurrence of this. This is a part of an American history. What's happening now is you're getting more coverage, more video of these events happening of police brutality onto black citizens in the United States of America. So let's take that little topic right there and let's talk about that for a minute.
All right, let's run with it.
I'm a fan of the protests. I'm a fan of social change. I am no way advocating violence. I am no way advocating property destruction. Those are not the things that I'm advocating. And in my opinion, I believe that most of that is being done by agitators from the outside, from the far left and the far right, that are intentionally stirring up violence to create a visual and a narrative that says when black people, African Americans and Americans, assemble peacefully, that we cannot allow this because violence breaks out. So I think a lot of that is being agitated by far left extremists and far right extremists for different reasons, but for the same result. So that we can have images on the news that, oh, look, black people are protesting, but every time they get together, violence breaks out, property destruction happens. That's just my basic thought and idea about the violence. About the civil unrest, yes, I think that that is needed. I think that that is justified. And I think that in the country that we were born, in the country where we live, the country where we pay taxes and vote, whether you pay taxes or not, every time you go to the store and buy something, there's a sales tax. You go put gas in your car, there's a gas tax. So we are taxed no matter what. And these taxes go to these municipalities to protect us, protect all of us, not just some of us. So I have very strong feelings about what's happening.
So how are these tactics, so to speak, and I question whether there are tactics in these protests, you know, how does looting, how does that produce any change? Because it doesn't. This seems like a recurring cycle. Every time there's some type of police brutality and a black man or black individual is wrongly, treated, then all of a sudden there's a breakout of protests, there's a breakout of looting, and people are destroying their own neighborhoods, their own cities, property, everything. People are taking advantage of the actual situation. How is that going to change anything? How is that going to create some type of, how is that going to create any type of viewing of what's going on now? I mean, how does that help anything?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I think we all agree it doesn't help anything, right? The looting, the destroying of property. Again, as Boomer was saying, is that, when you watch the videos, I see a lot of non-African Americans out there setting things afire and smashing windows and stuff. And so, it could be those from the far right and far left that are doing these things. I think what's happening is we being our generation, we're all about the same age. And so we being our generation, we've not given guidance to our young people on what do you do, right? What do you do in order to move this thing forward? What do you do when you're so angry? Police brutality is not new. It didn't just happen in the 21st century. This is something that our great grandparents been dealing with, right? But what do we do to move this thing forward to truly make change happen? And I think that's where we have fallen short on that.
Well, I think that's a good point, and I would like to add to that as generations go, I think, like I said, I'm in my early 50s, but no, don't repeat that to anyone. And I agree with Mr. DJ Hustle that these are our children that are out in the streets right now. Like I said, I'm in my 50s, and I'm not in the streets. And my parents are alive, both of them, and they're in their late 70s. They're not in the streets. So then it's the 20-year-olds that are out in the streets, and that would be my children. My children are in their 30s, early 30s. So that means from the early 30s down to their 20s, that would be our generation's children. And they are agitated and feeling certain emotions. And those emotions have led them to the streets to protest. Now, what are they going to do with that energy? What's going to happen next? I don't know. But I do believe that leaders are going to emerge in this generation, just like leaders emerged in the 60s and led to great civil change then. I think we have the opportunity for that to happen again in our children's generation because of their population size. I've talked about this before, that particular, our children, the millennials, the Zoomers, whatever title you want to give them, they're our children. That particular segment of the population is now the largest segment in the United States. So what they do as a group is going to have repercussions for the next 30, 40, 50 years in America. So I applaud the young people going to the street, recognizing that things are wrong and things need to be changed. And I think the next phase is for leadership to emerge in that group and take this thing to the next level.
Well, one thing we don't really talk about when things like this happen, we always talk about what's going on. We always talk about the problems. We always talk about the actual damage that has happened, but we rarely talk about solutions. How do we resolve these issues? And I know DJ Hustle, aka Coach, you have a strong opinion about a solution that can be the beginning of how we stop a lot of this brutality. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, I truly believe you can't change a system from the outside. You have to be a part of the system to truly change it. And so, we talk about police brutality, and it is real. It is something that we all deal with. You gentlemen on this podcast deal with it also. I've had real life situations where I've had police officers put guns in my face, and I've not broken the law. And I was not given a ticket. I was not arrested, but guns were put in my face because I was profiled. And so that is real. But we also understand that when something jumps off, when something's going bad, if somebody's trying to break in your house, if somebody steals your car, you're going to call the police. That's what you're going to do. You're going to call the police. Most of us are not going to take law in our own hands and go grab a gun and chase down somebody and handle it. We're probably going to dial 911 and tell them somebody's breaking in my house. Somebody has stolen my car. Okay. So because we use these systems, we need to start getting our young people, need to start getting us into these systems. So we need to make sure that they understand that getting a career in law enforcement, that's something that's real. But you can really do that. Okay, no, that's not designed for everyone, but we need to make sure they understand that, you know what, you can get a career in law enforcement. You know, you can, join the police department. You can join the FBI. By getting into the law enforcement and getting us into this, now we change the perspective, and now we change how it's viewed and how it's looked at, because now our way of thinking is in the system. Now, no, it's not going to change it immediately. It's going to be a slow process, and there's going to be some things that have to happen beyond that. But eventually what will happen is you'll have people from the community policing the community. And to me, that takes us into a step of eradicating the violence that we see done by police officers.
I would agree with that. I think that that is a good step forward. Policing ourselves, community policing. But these are not new concepts. These are not new ideas. I think now, though, with this particular generation, and I keep going back to this particular generation, the significance of that is the millennial generation again has now exceeded in size the population of the boomers, and definitely exceeded the size of Generation X, which is the generation that we're part of. These Zoomers and millennials have the numbers in society that whatever they do as a group will become the laws, will become the next police sergeants. They will become the next judges. They will become the next lawyers, the doctors, the next professionals. And that group now, that group consciousness will become the shaping consciousness of the next 50 years. So even though they're in their 20s right now, what they do is significant. And the guidance that we give their group as their parents is going to be significant because they will be looking to us for guidance. They won't be going to our parents, their grandparents. That's not who they're going to be turning to. So they'll be going to us, their parents, saying, hey, look, I'm feeling this way. What should I do? Last night, I went to the protest. I saw some people looting, but I didn't stop them. I ran away because the police were coming. So what are we going to do to influence this particular group? What can we do to influence this particular group? And I think these conversations we're having now, are conversations that, if not are taking place across the United States, they should be. And perhaps this might be a catalyst for them to start taking place across the United States about, hey, everybody's feeling a certain way. Our children are out in the streets protesting. Let's keep them safe, number one. Let's keep it legal, number two, because we don't want our kids going to jail. We don't want them out doing property damage. That property might be our stuff, or it might be our neighbor's property. So property damage should not be a part of the equation. But the idea of expressing your emotions in the streets, legally and peacefully, I think is an excellent beginning for needed social reform and social change in America.